Billions delivered and delivered and delivered in its last hour. It knew exactly what it had to do. Beat the living thing out of Mike Prince for 45 minutes, and then spend the last 15 minutes showing fans' favorite characters acting genuinely friendly toward one another. And by God, it accomplished it. It also provided us with that most elusive prestige TV commodity, a happy ending. The show used a cunning ploy to get there. Its brief, straightforward penultimate episode. Although Mike Prince seemed to have defeated Chuck, Axe, Wendy Taylor, and Wags handily, that victory was only intended to build up the joke for the conclusion. Almost everything we witnessed in the second-to-last episode was accurate. The goal of the ending was to just show you how everything actually happened. Things are not nearly as bad as they appeared to be at the conclusion of the previous episode, as evidenced by the assurance on the faces of Chuck, Wendy, Bobby, Taylor, and Bobby in the opening shot. The fact that Kate arrived on the scene a short while later only served to corroborate what I had begun to think last week. The forces of good had an inside woman who had been subverting an unaware Prince for the past 2 months. But there's still more. Like Prince, Philip has been a double agent since almost the very first minute when he destroyed his mentor. His grandiose attempt to distance himself from Wendy's plan was only an act. Furthermore, Kate revealed the existence of the anti-Prince plot to Mike in an attempt to strengthen it rather than dismantle it, even though she had discovered it on her own. Since then, Kate and Philip have taken every action with the intention of destroying Prince, most notably giving Philip complete authority over all investment decisions and outsourcing all decision-making to Winston's algorithm. In a very delectable move, the gang uses Mike's greatest victory, his admission to Camp David for his first, and ultimately only, presidential security briefing, to accomplish his biggest step back. As he and Scooter are off the grid, Taylor has already completely compromised Winston's algorithm, which is then used by the good guys to invest Prince's money in the natural gas industry. And wouldn't you know it, right then and there, word leaks out of Chuck's office about a full court press against purported collaboration between the major gas companies and different evil petrostates. Stocks plummet. The algorithm prevents Prince's organization from taking any action to save itself, as do his own stringent guidelines. A few minutes later, Mike Prince is no longer a billionaire. His only qualification for the president has disappeared along with his money and his public persona as a genius who made it all himself. It's hilarious to see Prince's ensuing tantrum, which reaches its height when he throws a printer through Wendy's glass wall, as hinted at in the season opener. It shows how obviously unsuitable he was to ever win it, as well as how much his cause is genuinely lost. Prince's ego ultimately triumphs over his observational skills, as evidenced by the further disclosure that even his running mate Nancy was aware of the scheme. Not the kind of person you want to be in charge of the nuclear football, for sure. The hits never stopped coming. Chuck Taylor and Wendy were willing to put every Prince Cap worker in financial ruin in order to stop Mike and save the nation, and, as Chuck contends, all life on Earth. However, Axe found it difficult to accept all that collateral harm to the people he cares about. Thus, he follows Bobby Axelrod's lead and uses cunning to get around it. Every employee's money is embezzled by Axe and placed into an account known as the Admiral's Fund, which is exclusively accessible to members of the former Axe Cap inner circle and comprises the company's finest investments. After Prince is destroyed, Axe orders Chuck and Amanda, who later reveals herself to be a devoted lieutenant in Chuck's army, to declare that there is no conspiracy and that all of the corporations involved are exonerated. Ever since those investments were covertly preserved under the Admiral's Fund, Axe has amassed enormous wealth for himself and all of his former and prospective employees. Scooter's bacon is also spared. After Prince's loss, the guy Wags refers to as the greatest second-in-command he's ever seen leaves the former candidate's employment to pursue his own goals, leaving Mike all by himself. Thanks to his nephew Philip, he now has $100 million, which is the exact same amount that Prince was left. Before Scooter departs to finally fulfill his dream of becoming an orchestra director, the two guys make amends. That kind of heartfelt farewell is given to all of our heroes. Axe and Taylor, Axe and Wendy, Axe and Taylor, Scooter and Wags, Wags and Axe. And of course, Chuck and Axe all shake hands and agree to keep it clean in the interim, even though they may cross swords again in the future. Pair by pair, they declare a job well done. Chuck and Wendy are shown having dinner with their children as the show comes to a close. Brian Connerty, who was once Chuck's Padawan trainee, serves that meal for the last time at his hibachi restaurant after being reinstated to the bar as a favor from Chuck and Kate, who is now employed by the Southern District of New York once more. No longer spouses, but probably the best friends they've ever had, they eat, chat, and laugh till the very end. Billions, a television show that frequently alludes to professional wrestling, masters several of the spectacle's narrative devices. I couldn't help but believe that the show went all in on a wrestling-style storyline when watching this climax. It developed Mike Prince into a monstrous heel for 2 seasons, emulating Roman Reigns, the supposedly unbeatable WWE champion. In order to defeat him, 2 ferocious adversaries had to combine as one, much like in the fabled Mega Powers narrative, which starred Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage. As with any good wrestling tale, good ultimately prevailed over evil in the most blatantly saccharine way imaginable. The fabled Axe Rhodes dispute. The conflict ended with a respectful handshake between Bobby and Chuck, demonstrating that they will always respect each other's will to fight even if they disagree in the future. This is a summary of the MJF vs. Samoa Joe storyline for fans of All Elite Wrestling. Wendy and Chuck are content. Wags and Axe are content, and may be relocating to Miami for a spinoff. Taylor is pleased that Bobby personally gave a new company brand new offices. Charles Rhodes Sr. even gives his son unqualified praise for crying out loud. You may argue that everything about this is overly simple and trite. One could argue that it's not representative of real-world operations. One may argue that Axe and Chuck ought to have ended up metaphorically, as Will Graham and Dr. Lecter did at the conclusion of Hannibal, or that Prince ought to have prevailed. All of that you might say, and I would just brush it off. Billions, which has long been one of the most utterly delightful television programs, ended its run by doing anything it could to keep viewers entertained. What does it matter if we haven't been able to vanquish our Prince-esque foes in the actual world thus far? The main idea of Billions is that Bobby Axelrod and Chuck Rhodes are the smartest players in the game, each in their own unique way. Let them sink that battleship, let them link 4, let them pass go, and let them receive $200. The game is done. Billions teaches us that great individuals are necessary to overcome great men. Bravo to Corey Stoll for holding off on revealing Mike Prince's truly wicked side until the very end. It's terrifying to see his rage on the walk to his office and his strange smile when told he still has enough money to rebuild. Think Greg Stilson meets The Office. I loved how Axe said, not doing Mike, admitting that his plan to ruin Mike's money was predetermined. Completed. It makes me think of the movie Watchmen and, spoiler alert, Ozymandias' astounding declaration. I did it 35 minutes ago, near the end of Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' groundbreaking superhero comic book. As I watched Philip emerge unscathed from Prince Cap's wreckage and his superiors run away ashamed, it dawned on me why this character exists in the greater scheme of Mike Prince's narrative. He is the one who prevails. Ultimately, he's just more intelligent and shrewder than both his uncle Scooter and his prospective mentor Mike. All of a sudden, I'm hoping he stays on for one of the much-rumored Billion spin-offs. Last week, I made the following predictions. Bradford would leave the company the instant Mike showed signs of weakness. Philip would also be a traitor. Kate would be the insider in Prince's organization. And Scooter's decision to leave his employer would be a poetic justice. As Wendy and Chuck conclude the show with a family celebration, Axe orders his married troops to make some expletive money. Once a billionaire has undergone reform, they remain so.